Welcome back. Well, if it's not electricity, it's probably water. I'm sure you or someone in your family, someone on your WhatsApp community has had issues with water in just the last few days. So many parts of Joburg, so many parts of Tshwane, so many parts of Soshanguve. If you're in Gqeberha, you're probably worried how much longer you're going to have water for. There are problems almost everywhere at the moment. Joburg Water and Rand Water say the problems they've had have been because of the intense load shedding. Benoit Leroy is the CEO of the South African Water Chamber. Benoit, good afternoon to you. Last year, there was an 8-day heat wave in September. That load shedding, we knew then that there would be more load shedding. We knew then that would lead to more problems with the water supplies. Rand Water and Joburg Water were supposed to take preventative measures. Why are we still having water problems now?
The reality is called 23 billion rand just for Johannesburg. It's a little bit less, I think, for Ekurhuleni and Tshwane. So that is the stated funding required to reinstate the leaking bucket of a municipal system we have in Johannesburg. 23 billion of the 120 billion worth of water assets. So it's a big asset base. And sadly to say, we have had a few talk shops, but no action. And nothing has been done. Now, the 23 billion we're not going to get overnight as a city, but no actions have been taken to actually sort out the leaky bucket, so the leaking municipal system. So if you've got a leaking municipal system and you've got Rand Water who have a reasonable capacity to pump and load shedding affects them to a certain extent, then you add load shedding in the city. What happens is a vulnerable system that leaks like a bucket with more holes than anything else. It's about 40 to 50%. There's talk of up to 56%, but I think the part that's in eThekwini. So we're talking 40, 50% is actually leaking. So Rand Water can pump so much, it just increases the leaks in the system as you increase the pressure in the system. The system is vulnerable. It has no repairs, and I'm talking about serious repairs, and also pressure demand management. We can talk about that. And also using digital tools to try and manage the crisis. You can't manage it completely because no system is designed for load shedding. But none of this has happened. And, it's not pointing fingers. The reality is our municipalities are in actual fact more concerned about who's going to be in the political positions as opposed to depoliticizing our basic services. So, as industry and associations and as consumers, we're promised of meetings coming up. I'm sorry, meetings do nothing. It's not a technology issue, it's a paralysis issue. So we have a pandemic of paralysis that we need to overcome. And I must admit, and I sounded probably, I'm at wit's end because we as industry do not know what to do to get, and it's not just, Joburg, it's all the uni cities, including Cape Town, to jump into action. This is not a PR show. This is a serious issue and we need to address it. So we need, collaboration between all stakeholders, and I think this needs to be driven by the private sector and not by government. Because government created the problem, and we need government, but the private sector needs to drive it, as was done in the pandemic for getting hold of vaccines and the likes. And I think it's time to set up shop and start doing that and make small gains into what is going to be the norm for the next half to a decade. So we're talking 5 to 10 years of load shedding at various levels, and we simply cannot load level 6, 5 or 6 in these old decrepit systems. We cannot cater for them. It is just too high. So what we need to do is to stop talking about plasters and generators and all the likes. We have to start talking about reducing the leaks in the system, and we have technology to do that. So it's not just a physical thing. There's also software available. There's intelligent sensors available. We're really in the 5th industrial revolution, so let's start moving in that direction and use this crisis as, let's say, a proof of concept on how to manage our physical leaks, which form part of the greater non-revenue water catastrophe we have. It's the number one priority in our master plan. That was 2018. Yeah.
Benoit, when you say that the private sector should get more involved, what would the private sector do? Because water is almost by definition a network, first of rivers, then of dams, and from there of pipes. That surely has to be managed by government. So what would the private sector be doing?
I don't think it needs to be managed by government exclusively. I think we can Government talks about private sector participation and assisting it, collaborating and supporting with technical and funding know-how. So I think we need to do that on a joint basis, because in business, we wouldn't let our business get to this. We go out of business and we can't afford to go out of water. So I think we can do this, and I think we can do it tomorrow.
You talk about a pandemic of paralysis. Where's that paralysis come? Is it coming from the structure? Is there a problem with the way that, national government interacts with local government? Is it the fact that local government is in charge of this? Should it be provincial government instead?
Our architecture is, in actual fact, there's no problem with it. It's a people's issue where we're just paralyzing to waiting for somebody else to do it, because we might get into trouble, we might be stepping out the bounds, or we don't understand what the rules of the game are. And all over the world, generally speaking, it's devolved to local authority level, where even the local authority, the municipality, is the regulator. Most parts of Europe operate like that. The US operates like that. China operates like that. So I don't think there's any problem in that at all. Province is supposed to be doing the oversight. We don't see province. And national is really the custodian. So it's not a national government issue. One could say the load shedding, yes, but the issue we have with the water, it's a local municipal, local government mandate, and we have to get it right. And it's not that difficult. And the irony is that the dams are still as full as they were with the water shedding late last year. So the problem is not with our water reserve, which is managed at a provincial and national level. It's a local government delivery issue, and the water utilities or the bulk service providers like Grand Water are not really the problem in this particular case. The problem, but they have a lot of expertise that they can help with. They can only provide so much water, and they are also affected by load shedding to a certain extent, not to the same extent. The cities have to fix this leaking bucket syndrome using the quickest affordable measures, and that's not diesel generators, to be able to pinch those leaks, and then also to prioritize the replacement of the bulk lines, and it's the bulk lines, the big lines, not the small lines, that are in actual fact causing a lot of the lost water, and then to increase the amount of reservoirs. And that can be done very, very quickly, because we haven't increased the amount of reservoirs to the amount of consumers that have been added to Gauteng in the last 20 years. So there's a lot of things we can do to alleviate the problem, but we've got to start them. That's the issue I'm putting on the table. We're not starting them.
And Benoit, you talk about the fact that our dams are full, and that's true. That's largely because we've had a lot of rain. But no one's predicting a lot of rain for the next season. So if our dams start to get a little bit drier, we have absolutely no means to save water, especially if we're losing half of it in the system.
That's the flip side of the coin. I think this time next year, or in 18 months' time, the problem is going to be the dams are at critically low levels. We've wasted, like Nelson Mandela Bay. This is exactly what happened over a decade in Nelson Mandela Bay. We've wasted all the water into the ground and had access to about half some of the time. And we're going to really, really sit in an unenviable position. That's why we have to do things now. And I'm not talking about declaring state emergency. Let's just do the normal things that we used to do, that we can do, and that we must do. And, let's cut the red tape out. We don't want any skullduggery. There's nothing wrong with the supply chain rules. Let's get the private sector, big industry and the likes involved. It's more difficult than energy. There's a lot of alternatives to energy, but like energy's done, I'm not saying get off the grid. Let's start working together to get this sorted out, because the technology is there. The technology is waiting to be deployed, but unfortunately there's nobody home in local government at the moment. And, not picking on any of the uni cities. It's the same thing in all the uni cities to varying levels.
Benoit,
in Gauteng and in,
Benoit, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you. Benoit Leroy is the CEO of the SA Water Chamber. I do appreciate the time.